All right, Ben, bring us home here with this one.
Okay. All right. So mine's more of a just kind of a general. Wait, go back one more slide. I want to just kind of say what I'm talking about is this is a unique market, right? I've been working with RealWealth since 2014 and was a real estate investor for a long time before then, and I've seen all these various ups and downs, and we're also used to Cincinnati comes out with a list of 20 properties, and we can kind of take our sweet time and run the numbers and and isn't life wonderful? It's 2012. Well, those days are long gone, as everybody knows. I'm not telling anything anybody doesn't know, but I think it's really important. You need to be decisive. You have to make a decision. So go ahead and advance. It's just settling an issue, producing a definite result. You don't have the time to lollygag around. Now, no one is saying make a rash decision. I mean, certainly I'm not. And if you as an investor are not comfortable with the compressed timeline that this market is necessitating that you as an investor make a decision in, then it's perfectly fine. Don't let anyone pressure you into anything. If anybody does, walk away. Don't invest with them. But if you really want to get something, you do have to be more decisive. You have to make more decisions quicker, and be strong about it and feel good about it. And we all work with a lot of very analytical, stereotypical Silicon Valley engineer types, but that's just a stereotype. Just people who overanalyze, and they're just racked with analysis paralysis. And in 2013, maybe you could get away with that, but you really can't as much now. And I just see a lot of people just spinning their wheels. Like most recent example was in a new construction. An engineer type was like demanding specs. What are the windows? What's the impact resistance exactly? And I need to see the specs of that. And how big are the windows? And what's the shear wall tolerance of that particular corner? And it's like, the property team we were working with was not going to go back to the builder that they're building a relationship with and ask for all this stuff, especially when that particular engineer had 15 people in line behind them willing and ready to buy the property. So in my mind, there's nothing wrong with asking those questions. You just have to be realistic that you're probably not going to get the property because there's other people behind you that want it, and it's kind of unreasonable. Now, this particular individual was kind of being unreasonable about it, but I've got a million other examples of and then what happens is they end up not getting anything because they take too long and they're just overly deliberative. And I don't want to say that that's a problem. It is a problem, but I don't want to say that you're a bad person for being that way. But in this market, you really have to be more decisive, and that's just the reality. Go ahead and advance. I love this quote by the Italian philosopher Voltaire. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot by demanding the specs of the impact resistance of the windows. Meanwhile, the house is sold. Maybe something will come along next week, and maybe you won't ask that question, So it's just, I don't mean to be, abrasive, but it's a reality of this market that I think people need to adjust. And a lot of you have, a lot of us have, but there's those who haven't. And the problem is, if you just wait and wait and wait for the perfect to come along, like Aristotle said earlier, you're going to be waiting a long time. If you're waiting for a foreclosure crisis, you're going to be waiting a long time for perfection. And in the meantime, you're not getting any younger. You don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. And like Joe said at the very beginning of this webinar, real estate is a long-term game. So I think if the cash flows now and you're not buying in a really bad neighborhood and you've got a reputable group you're working with, which is why you're going through RealWealth Network, you're better off just doing it, because that starts the clock running, the 30-year, 20-year, 15-year clock. And so that's kind of more my inspirational message to people in this market, to kind of just be decisive and make something happen. And Leah, actually, you had another quote that I think Mark Cuban said, and I'll probably botch it. It was
I've got it here on a sticky note. Perfection is the enemy of profitability.
Perfect. Again, perfection, the enemy of profitability. So I mean, I think those two things kind of go hand in hand, and you just have to move. Things will probably slow down at some point in the future, and we'll all have those lists from Cincinnati of 20 properties, and we can flip through them and have a cup of coffee and come back the next day and flip through them again and go, I think I'll take number 16, and it'll still be available. But not now, not in 2021. It's gone.
You've also got to acknowledge the fact that like all of our teams do operate in kind of a strict first come, first serve fashion. And we've asked them to operate in that way. They don't have to in this market dynamic. And so I was coaching a client the other day and kind of encouraging them like, you know, look, if you're not ready to sign the contract, you can do things to try to delay. You can request, you know, to see the contract, review it, but know that he's probably talking to other people about this same deal. And until someone signs a contract and sends over earnest money, it's a free for all. Like it's anybody's game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think our teams have been really. I've heard some situations where they've been extremely accommodating to allow for some questions, to allow for some back and forth, and they're not just selling properties out from under you, but you've got to just acknowledge. I mean, the question earlier was why would they sell to investors over owner occupants? Well, this is one of those things that we want to protect as investors. We don't want them to prefer to sell to the retail buyer. We want to be decisive. We want to be, you know, serious about it and respectful of the fact that, you know, there's people in line behind you to take it.
And good point, Leah, because also it's just our property teams could have kind of a highest price gets it. Let's see what you know, we'll throw it out there like it's a listing on the MLS, multiple listing service, but they don't do that. And that's one of the big selling points. It's like, no, the price is set. That's what it is. They know the market. It will sell. It's a fair price. They're not going for the highest bidder. They know it needs to appraise. So you're not competing. I get that question all the time. Am I competing against, you know, you say there's 50,000 other members. Am I competing against all of them? Well, not in terms of price, but in terms of time and decisiveness, you kind of are, yeah.
Just an example of that. I mean, last week our West Florida Invest team had 7 new properties come on, and they sold within a couple of days. And these are all, I forget what they cost, 400,000 or so, and they just disappeared. So you have to act quickly.
Right, you do. But no one's forcing you to. If you're not comfortable with that, that's perfectly okay. But just understand that's the market we're in right now.
And in addition to considering the dimensions of the windows, you should be considering the opportunity cost of waiting.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Whenever you measure risk, you have to measure the risk of opportunity lost.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I just wanted to say one thing on and I love your segment, Ben, because it really is helpful for people who are stuck or indecisive. And if I have an indecisive member, I'm going to send them to you, Ben.
Great.
But anyone else can help you out, but I'm just kidding. No, but what I wanted to say is that what's great about our network is that we have so much great information to help you make an educated decision. So we do webinars like this every week, whether it's a market or whether we're talking or whether we have a lender on. So our website, we have a YouTube channel too. I want to throw that out there. We have a YouTube channel. If you just look up RealWealth Network on YouTube, we have so many great interviews of, you know, Kathy Fettke podcasts, everything's on there. And so if you really want to get educated before you buy, highly recommend it. That way, when you go into a market, you know, boom, you've already talked to the team. Maybe you've already gone out to the market, which we do encourage. If you feel comfortable doing that, go out to the market, look at some properties, meet our team, and then you're going to be so much more confident when you're ready to buy. So
yep. So which takes us to this next slide. So determine your next step and take it. All the information's there on the website. You've got all the different log in, float over in single family homes or multifamily homes. Select a market off the drop down. All the information is there in terms of the webinar, the sample properties, archived webinar, the sample properties, and the contact information. And if you're ready to invest, just contact the property team. Start a dialogue with them. You're not committing to anything. You're just starting a dialogue and getting on their list if there is a list with that particular team. And if you're not ready to invest, like Aristotle just said, just continue to educate yourself on our investor portal.
I think that's great advice, Ben. One thing I want to add that I've kind of done as a practice to keep myself in a place of action. One, always keep yourself pre-approved. Keep yourself just with that letter in hand so that when you see an opportunity, you don't have another convenient excuse to delay. But also I found that the new construction timelines allow me to always kind of have one on the docket and have one on the horizon. I kind of used the analogy the other day with a client of it's like signing up for a marathon. You know, I sign up for the marathon, I pay for my, you know, bib ticket, and I pay for my little water bottle, and now it's on the calendar. It's happening. I need to prepare for this. I've got to keep all things moving in that direction. Otherwise, it will be a complete and utter failure. I will be unprepared, you know. So I love that it keeps me in this place of like, okay, like as soon as I closed on that one, the new build in Florida that I bought, I immediately the next day contracted a next one to close next summer. Like it's just keep myself in this place of, yes, understanding those risks of long term and projecting something out that far, but knowing how to offset that risk and knowing that, hey, this is how I keep myself in kind of a forward lean and make sure that I'm not getting in my own head about about the things that don't ultimately matter, you know.
Yep. Agree.